Let's take a look at this problem. Here we have three fractions. Pardon me. And it really doesn't matter how many fractions we have. We could have 1,000. The process is always the same. Our denominators are different. So we cannot add them. So we're going to have to raise two of these fractions so that we can get all the same denominators. So we need a number. We're looking for one number that 8 will go into it evenly, 4 will go into it evenly, and 2 will go into that same number. Well, since 8 has to go into the number evenly, let's start with 8, because the number could not be less than 8, because 8 has to go into it evenly. So 8 will go into 8, we know that. Will 4 go into 8 evenly? Yes, it does. And we know 2 will go into 8. So we'll use 8. This is already in 8th, so we don't have to do anything. And we're going to raise these two fractions. We're going to raise these two fractions to denominators with 8. Well, 4 times what number gives me 8? 4 times 2 gives me 8. So I'll multiply this by 2. 3 times 2 is 6. So I've raised the fraction 3/4 to an equivalent fraction that's named as 6/8. Now I'm going to do the same here. I'm going to raise 1/2 to an equivalent fraction that has a denominator of 8. Well, 2 times what number gives me 8? Well, 2 times 4 gives me 8, so I multiply the top by 4. 1 times 4 is 4. Okay, now I've changed 1/2 to an equivalent fraction with a higher name and a denominator of 8. So 1/2 is 4/8. Now I have all eighths, so I can add. So I add the numerators. 3 and 6 is 9. 9 and 4, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13 eighths. Well, I have an improper fraction, so I have to change it. 8 goes into 13 one time, and I have 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. I have 5 left over. 1 and 5/8. I say to myself, is 5/8 in its slowest name? And yes, it is. So that is my answer. 1 and 5/8. Let's take this problem. Here we have two mixed numbers, 14 and 4/5 and 7 and 8/15. Well, we know that when we're working with mixed numbers and fraction, we have mixed numbers, we forget the whole number first and we work with the fraction. So we have two fractions here and denominators are different. So we're going to have to raise the name of one of them. So we need a number. We're looking for a number that 15 goes into evenly and 5 has to go into that same number. Well, since 15 has to go into the number evenly, the number can't be less than 15. Let's start with 15. We know 15 goes into 15 one time. Does 5 go evenly into 15? Yes, it does. So we can raise the name of 4/5 to a fraction that has 15 as a denominator. This fraction already has 15 as a denominator, so we don't have to do anything to it. Okay, so we say 5 times what number gives me 15? Well, 5 times 3 gives me 15. Well, then we have to multiply the top by 3. 4 times 3 gives me 12. So now I have raised the name of 4/5 to a fraction that has a denominator of 15, and it's 12/15. Now I add these. Well, 12/15 and 8/15 will give me 20/15, which gives me an improper fraction, so I have to change it. 15 goes into 20 one time, and I have 5 left over, so I have 1 and 5/15. But I know that 5/15 is not in its lowest name. So I know 5 can go into 5 one time, and 5 can go into 15 3 times. So when I do the fraction part of this problem, I get 1 and 1/3 as my answer. Now I'm going to do the whole number part. Well, 14 and 7 gives me 21, And I have 1 and 1/3, so the answer would be 22 and 1/3. Okay, it may seem a little complicated, but it really is fairly simple. And if you follow just step by step and think it through, you'll get it. And of course, if you're having problems, you can always just push the back button and go back over the lesson. All right, I'm going to give you some problems to work on now, and we'll see how you do. Okay, let's take a look at these two problems. Number 1, you have to add 7/10 and 3/4, and number 2, 5/16, 5/8, and 1/2. Okay, put the DVD on pause, work these problems in your notebooks, and then put the DVD back on again, and we'll see how you did. We'll go over them. Okay, let's see how you've done. Well, we have 7/10 and 3/4. We can't add them because the denominators are different. So we're going to have to raise one or both of these fractions to a higher name. Well, since we're looking for a number that 10 goes into evenly and 4 goes into the same number evenly. So we'll start with 10 because 10 is the biggest one, so it can't be less than 10. Well, 10 will go into 10 evenly, but 4 will not go into 10 evenly. So then we say to ourselves, okay, well, what's the next biggest number that 10 will go into evenly? Well, 20 is the next number. 10 will go into 20 evenly. Will 4 go into 20 evenly? Yes, 4 will. So in this instance, we're going to raise both of these fractions. Both of these fractions. So that their denominators will be 20. Well, if we say, okay, 10 times what number gives me 20? Well, 10 times 2 gives me 20. So then we have to multiply the top by 2. 7 times 2, 14. 4 times what number gives me 20? Well, we know 4 times 5 will give us 20. And we have to multiply this by 5. 3 times 5 is 15. Now, when I add these, since the denominators are 20, I can add this. 14 and 15 is 29 over 20. Now, I know that's an improper fraction, so I have to change it to a mixed number. 20 goes into 29 one time, and 9/20. Then I ask myself, well, is 9/20 in its lowest name? And yes, 9/20 is in its lowest name. So our answer is 1 and 9/20. The part about this problem is, up until now, one of these numbers has always been a number we could use as the denominator. But in this case, we had to raise both of their names. Both of their names to 20ths. Okay, let's take a look here. Well, we've got 5/16, 5/8, and 1/2. Well, we're going to have to raise the name of some of these fractions, and maybe all of them, but we'll see. We're looking for a number. 16 has to go in. We're looking for this number over here. We don't know what it is, but 16 has to go into it evenly. 8 has to go into it evenly, and 2 has to go into it evenly. Well, since 16 has to go into it evenly, we might as well start with 16, because the number that we choose cannot be less than 16. Well, we know 16 will go into 16. Will 8 go into 16 evenly? Yes, it will. It goes 2 times. Will 2 go into 16? Yes, it goes 8. So we can then use 16. Well, we don't have to raise the name of this fraction. It's already 16ths. So it's 5/16. Now we have to raise the name of this fraction to 16ths. Well, 8 times what number gives me 16? 8 times 2. Then I have to multiply this times 2. 5 times 2, 10. Now we raise this one to 16ths. 2 times what number gives me 16? Well, 2 times 8 gives me 16. So then I have to multiply this by 8. 1 times 8 is 8. Well, now I have all the denominators in 16ths. So now I can just add. 5 and 10 is 15. And 15 and 8. 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23 sixteenths. And we have the improper fraction, so we have to change it. 16 goes into 23 one time, and what's left over? 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, and 7 sixteenths. And then I say to myself, is this in its lowest name? And yes, it is. So 1 and 7 sixteenths is our answer.